Hi, everyone. Welcome to episode 4 of the Latter-Day Talking Points podcast, and I am your host, Adam Thomas Dommeyer, evangelist and director of Latter-Day Sense Evangelism Ministry, and I'm out here in front of the LDS Ward in Burnsville, Minnesota, where we believe in reaching the world through biblical Latter-day common sense. And we have a heart for Latter-day Saints. I used to believe in Mormonism. I used to believe in the Book of Mormon. I used to believe that Joseph Smith was a prophet of God, and I almost converted to the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints when I was 15 years old back in the summer of 2003, but I didn't. I realized the truth of the gospel, and I realized a lot of the issues when it comes to history with the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints are extremely problematic. And that's why this episode today, we are taking a deeper dive into the history of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints and why it matters to search out the true history of the LDS Church. Now, the Church of Christ was founded in 1830 by Joseph Smith, specifically on the day of April 6th. He changed the name in 1834 to Church of the Latter-day Saints, changed it yet again in 1838 to what it is now known as the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Now, this is not the only Mormon denomination per se. One of the justifications for Joseph Smith in him restoring the quote-unquote Church of Jesus Christ here on the earth was because he saw so many different Christian denominations contending for which one was true. They were seeking different members in their church from revival meetings, for example, the Methodists, the Presbyterians, and the Baptists. And then there were also the Quakers. There were also other different restoration movements. For example, later on, the Millerites, the Campbellites. And when we look at this, we need to recognize that a problem with the Latter-day Saint claim that they are the only true church on the face of the earth and that they hold the answers to life's most important questions is this. For example, they believe that their church has the answer to all the other denominations being wrong, in that they have the truth. Why would God create his church only to be splintered into so many denominations? Well, the LDS Church claims to be a restoration of the truth to solve that problem. But you know what? It actually created the same problem. Why? Because there were up to 400 different schisms within the Latter-day Saint movement. And this is interesting because there are several of them. For example, there's the Community of Christ, formerly known as the Reorganized Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. There's also the Remnant Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. There's also the FLDS Church in Colorado City and Hilldale, and there are several others as well. Now, when it comes to this, each one of those different splinter groups, the schisms from the Latter-day Saint movement, believes in their own interpretation of the Bible and the Book of Mormon. There are even several different versions of the Book of Mormon. What's interesting is that each of these groups believe that their interpretation of the Book of Mormon is correct, that their prophet president is correct, that their quorum of 12 apostles is correct. So my question to you, if that we are to read through the Book of Mormon and pray about whether it's true, my question to Latter-day Saints is which version of the Book of Mormon? Which edition of the Book of Mormon? Which specific LDS splinter group is correct? Is it the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, or is it one of the other splinter groups? Because these Mormon denominations essentially ended up turning into the very problem that Joseph Smith tried to course correct. Do you see how that would confuse people? Because if we are to pray about the truthfulness of the Book of Mormon, this is an extremely subjective means to try to find the truth. If we are to pray about whether or not an entire book of Scripture is true, then what edition of that book is true? How is it that we are to trust then the Salt Lake City-based Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints versus the Community of Christ based in Independence, Missouri, for example? How do we know which of the Mormon groups are true, if any of them are true? And that'd be a huge question, because for Latter-day Saints that have their testimony, that bear their testimony in sacrament meeting, when they say, I know without a doubt that the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is true, I know without a doubt that Dallin H. Oaks is the prophet of God on earth today, I know without a doubt that the Book of Mormon is true. How do you know that it's true? Is it because of that feeling, that burning in the bosom, that your bosom will burn from within you? I know what that feeling's like. I had that when I was 14 years old, when I first started believing in the Book of Mormon. But I have news for you, is that feeling is deception, because it says in Jeremiah that the heart is desperately wicked and full of lies. Who can know it? If we were to base our entire truth on a subjective feeling that we know that this is true, then it's all subjective. I mean, Muslims believe that the Quran is true because they feel it's true. They feel like that's Allah's word on earth today. There's so many different religions that they believe that that's true. For example, Jehovah's Witnesses believe that their New World Translation is the only correct translation of the Bible on the face of the earth today. So how do we really know? Is it that we just pray about it? Because when we look back to the founding of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, it was based on the premise that God's authority was completely lost from the earth. Nothing short of that would warrant the establishment of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. B.H. Roberts, a LDS church historian and theologian, even talked about this very concept. Gordon B. Hinckley has talked about it. Bruce R. McConkie has talked about it. In regards to there's no middle ground when it comes to the Book of Mormon. It is either true or it is false. It either came from heaven or it is one of the most bold, deep-laid impositions from the pit of hell. It is either one of the two. There is no middle ground when it comes to the Book of Mormon. So when it comes to looking up LDS church history, when Latter-day Saints are taught to look up their history, they're taught to focus in and hone in on faith-promoting materials, official church materials, such as general conference talks, articles from the Ensign magazine, official statements and declarations from Latter-day prophets, the four standard works, the Bible, Book of Mormon, Doctrine and Covenants, Pearl of Great Price. But when we look at this, we realize that the actual official history of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is extremely problematic. Now, you can look at anti-Mormon sources all you want. You can look up anti-Mormon sources, but the thing is, where are they getting that information from? Because sometimes, I do concede that there are some times where quote-unquote anti-Mormon books may characterize Mormons as a certain way, and we should never put down people. We should never put down Latter-day Saints as people because they are created in the image of God. However, when we're talking about the organization of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints and its theology, it is all subject to scrutiny, to put under a microscope, to be able to say, hey, we need to take a deeper dive into this, because there are a lot of sources out there. I just want to say there are a lot of sources out there that are coming from official LDS church material. Just look up, for example, the Gospel Topics essays. The official Gospel Topics essays on churchofjesuschrist.org, an official website for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. You will see some very, very troubling material, especially about the Book of Abraham, especially about Joseph Smith and polygamy in Kirtland and Nauvoo. There are articles on that document Joseph Smith's plural marriages and the details of that. And you know what? Todd Compton, an LDS author of that book, In Sacred Loneliness, it's a really thick book, details several troubling accounts of Joseph Smith's polygamy and how he practiced it. Now, I would really recommend that you take a deep dive into this, because yes, every church in existence out there, there's a nuance with everything. There's a lot of problems with church history in general, but we need to pull back the curtain to take a look at the founding claims of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, because it does not claim to be just any other denomination. More recently, especially, Latter-day Saints want to be included in the category of being Christian, of seeing themselves, wanting others to see them as Christian. Historically, that was not the case. A lot of them said that no, the Christ of whom Christians speak is not the same Christ of whom we speak. They worship at a throne of a mythical Christ. And these are words coming from former LDS leaders. And that's why it's so important to keep in mind that when you hear from Latter-day Saint missionaries, well, we don't go around to you telling you that your church is false, so why don't you leave us alone? The truth of the matter is, yes, you do actually. You do come door to door. You do proselytize Christians into your church by claiming that theirs is destitute of all authority and does not have the true authority to baptize, the true authority to ordain, the true authority to have laying on of hands. And there's a problem with that, because in the Pearl of Great Price in Joseph Smith history, look it up, right in section 1, verses 18 through 22, look at the first vision account there, where Joseph Smith claims that God our Father and his Son Jesus Christ appeared to Joseph Smith in 1820 to tell him that all churches were completely corrupt, not even one was true. They were all corrupt, all their professors were corrupt, all of their teachings and their creeds were an abomination in God's sight. Okay, so right off the bat, that means that Joseph Smith comes around, claims that all other churches are wrong. So who started the debate on whether or not Mormons were right or whether Christians were right? Well, Joseph Smith was the one that first came on the scene that said all Christian churches were false. So as Christians, we have a responsibility to respond to that. And that's all that we're doing. So Latter-day Saints, when you're hearing evangelical Christians come to you and have discussions with you and to talk to you about the truth claims of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, we need you to understand that from our perspective, we're coming to you out of genuine concern, sometimes out of tough love, to say that the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is not a Christian church. It is not because it claims to be a Christian church. It is because when you dive deep into the doctrine, the theology, the history of its founder, you run into serious problems. If you look even at the provoking of Joseph Smith, Sidney Rigdon, and other Latter-day Saint leaders in Missouri provoking the government of Missouri, when you hear about all of Joseph Smith's fraud, his anti-banking schemes in Kirtland, Ohio, the fact that he fled from place to place was not due to persecution. It was because he was stirring up a lot of trouble and he was getting in trouble with the government. It's not just that. It's the Book of Mormon, the problems with the translation, Joseph Smith using a seer stone. There were problems with the Book of Mormon manuscript, problems with the number of changes in the Book of Mormon, problems with the Book of Commandments, and the thousands of changes between that and the 1835 version of the Doctrine and Covenants, and then the current version of Doctrine and Covenants. There's so many problems with the Kinderplate hoax, the numerous wives that Joseph Smith married, the number of underage girls that Joseph Smith married, the fact that he married 11 women who were currently married to other men at the time that he married them. These are all extremely problematic things that if you take a deep dive into, you're going to realize that the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is not what it claims to be. So when you're looking up information about the church, I encourage you, don't just look up things that are quote unquote faith promoting, look up the truth. Because if you belong to a church that discourages you from reading certain material against that church, then what is there to hide? What are they hiding? That's a huge question that I have for you, because if there's nothing to hide, then why discourage members from diving deep into it? And then why is it that you were able to be disciplined by that organization for actually searching out and finding the truth of it? Then you're labeled for apostasy and other things. You can be disfellowshipped and even excommunicated. And this is a huge problem, because there is nothing wrong with examining the truth claims of a specific church and organization. So my encouragement for Latter-day Saints is this: do your research. Do your research. Find out the truth for yourself. Dive deep into the Joseph Smith papers. Dive deep into early Mormon documents. Dive deep into a lot of the history of this, because you are going to find out a lot of information that's going to counter the current claims of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. So that's my encouragement to you. Dive deeper into it. I encourage you to leave your Mormonism behind to find a good, healthy, biblical local church near you, because there's several of them that are preaching the gospel of Jesus Christ, and we have a heart for you. We really do. We want you to see through the lies of Mormonism, through the lies of Joseph Smith, and to come to a true saving relationship with Jesus, because Jesus is enough. God bless.